All right, hi everyone. So I'm here today with Maye and Jason Jepson. They are a really wonderful mother-son advocacy team. Jason lives with schizophrenia and Maye is his mother. And together they do really great advocacy work around schizophrenia and around mental health. So can you guys just give us a little bit of an overview about your experience getting diagnosed and what that was like for each of you?
Okay.
So Jason?
I was originally diagnosed when I was in the United States Army. I was stationed in Fort Orange, California, which is the Mojave Desert. And I actually thought I had special powers. I thought my special powers could help my fellow soldiers. And I was like, well, I gotta tell somebody about this. So I went to the mental health clinic on post, and they said, I don't know about the special powers. They sent me to the main hospital in San Diego called Balboa, which is one of the best psychiatric hospitals in the country. And I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, didn't agree with it, but I eventually got honorably discharged, and I actually drove from California to Richmond, Virginia in my pickup truck. And that was an interesting drive, but I when I got back to Richmond, I didn't accept the illness. I wasn't taking medication. My only priority was to go to the bar and start drinking. So I maybe self-medicating there. And then eventually I was just acting out to my parents, being very disrespectful. And I was a danger to myself and my parents, mainly my dad. So they had to call the police on me. And you know, most people see that as, man, that's so hard. But it was the only way I would be willing to get help. Mm-hmm. After that happened, it's the realization that I can get help. You know, I was put on the right medication, and it's been. I still have symptoms. I'm in recovery, but it's a lot better. I'm on the right medication, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like accepting it was really...
Accepting is the most important anybody can do with any type of illness. Accept you have it. Because when you accept it, you can begin your healing process.
Right. Maye, what was it like when Jason was diagnosed for you?
It was shocking. I very vividly remember the day that Jason called me and said, "Mom, guess where I am?" And of course, I had no idea. I knew he was in the Army and he was stationed in California. And then he said, "I'm in a psychiatric hospital." I was shocked beyond belief. So, you know, fast forward a little bit, you know, he told me that he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. But one of the really good things was that Jason allowed us from the very beginning to talk to his doctors. So we were able to understand what his illness was, what his diagnosis was right from the beginning. And I did some research and found out that, you know, this was a brain disease that was going to affect his life for the rest of his life and ours too. So, you know, doing a lot of research to find out exactly what to expect. And then Jason came home, and as he said, he was not accepting that he had a mental illness. And things spiraled down. We had to wait until he reached the bottom. And then we did call the police, had to call the police. And that, as hard as that decision was, and I can tell you with the most certainty that that is the hardest decision I have ever made in my life, but it was the most important decision that we made to get Jason help. Because at that point, we knew that things were going to get better for him, and they have gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
I would just like to say to your viewers, don't wait to hit the bottom. Get help, get on the right medication, and talk to your doctor. Be honest with your doctor. And of course, like we already said, accept your illness. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to accept it, but once you do it, the healing begins. Mm-hmm. You know, right. So
yeah, self-acceptance is huge. But I want to talk a bit more. So, like Maye, you were kind of talking about not really being totally sure the best way to support him in terms of whether to call the police or not, and that kind of thing. And I think that's something that a lot of our viewers struggle with, is like how best to support someone who's living with the illness. And equally so, something that I struggle with and something that I know a lot of other people struggle with too is how to accept that support. So I want to kind of talk to you guys to feel that out a little bit more. So Jason, can you talk a little bit more about how you've come around to accepting the help from your mom and from other supportive people in your life?
I think it happened. I went to the hospital, and after a couple of weeks, the medication started working, and I was realizing these voices, these delusions, aren't real. And I didn't go back home to my parents. I went to homeless respite, and my friends from high school and college, pretty much no support. Of course, they have their own lives and they have their own jobs. I understand that, but yeah. And I think I really accepted at the homeless respite that I do have schizophrenia and mental health issues. And that's when the medicine started working, and I realized, that I'm getting help. This is good, and it's just one stage of recovery, Every stage, hospital, homeless respite. Then I had a furnished room. And then eventually my VA claim came through, and I could pay for my apartment, food, clothes. So there's different stages of recovery, and it just, you're not going to stay in the same one. You may stay there for a while, but try to keep on moving up.
It seems like you guys have a really supportive relationship, and your mom has been there for you through a lot of things. So was it hard for you at first to kind of accept that love and support when you were struggling? Or was it always just kind of...
When I was struggling, I was hearing voices, and I assumed that my parents were being influenced by the voices in their head.
Right.
I remember, I was watching TV with my parents, and then just I looked at my dad and said, "Dad, stop listening to the voices in your head." I couldn't imagine what they felt, they never told me what they felt about that, but that's schizophrenia right there. Thinking voices can influence other people.
Well, I think that doing research and learning as much as possible about schizophrenia, Jason's dad, my husband, Phil, and I learned what to expect. Okay, so he wasn't taking his medication, so we knew that he was going to continue to spiral down. So the hearing voices and thinking that the voices were influencing us, that was all a part of schizophrenia and the diagnosis that he had. So we were waiting for that point when we could get him the help that he needed, because he was in the throes of his schizophrenia, his brain disease. He was not going to ask for the help. He didn't think he needed help. So we waited until we felt that he was a danger to himself and to others, and that was when we were able to call the police. We had also, and I think this is an important piece of our recovery for helping Jason to recovery, was that as parents, we had joined a mental health support group that our local mental health department offered in the town that we lived in. And this was a group for parents of young adults who were not compliant with their mental illness. They were not taking their medication. So
not accepting.
That's right, not accepting. And so we were in this group with other parents, and we would meet once a week to kind of talk about, and there was a facilitator to talk about what we were going through. So we had that help, which was very important. We knew what to look for, the signs. And so we knew that eventually, if he did not agree to go into a treatment plan, that we would have to call the police. And that is what happened. He was, Jason, you were seriously spiraling down. And, coming up with a treatment plan was the first important big step to get him into recovery. And fortunately, when the police came in our locality, that it was a trained part of the police who were trained in taking care of patients who were mentally ill.
So what I'm hearing from you in terms of your role as a support person for Jason was that you did your research about learning more about the illness in order to better understand it and better understand how to help him. You got connected with resources and supports with the group.
Exactly.
And you created a treatment plan.
Yes.
So is there anything else that you would add to that in terms of the day-to-day support that you provide for Jason?
And I also think this is an important part. You can look at Jason. This is not an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
This is not even a 20-year-old now. He is an adult. And so I have to frame any help that I give to Jason in that kind of a relationship. We are a parent and an adult child, an adult young man. And so I don't want to speak to him in the same way I would have spoken to him when he was 16 years old and he was acting out in some way. So I have to be very respectful of him. Even though I'm a parent and I look at him sometimes and I think, oh, that's my little boy. He's a grown man. And so he needs to be treated with that kind of respect, even though he has a mental health diagnosis.
I would like to say this. I am trying to be a little bit more independent, handle my own issues. I hate saying it, but my mom and dad will not always be there. I'm going to have my own coping mechanism for when that happens. And so far, I mean, I almost take advantage of how good my parents treat me. You know, just tell them, well, I'm feeling this, when I could probably block it out or go for a walk or write it out, you know. But I am trying to be a little bit more independent. But mom and dad, I mean, I'm really sure if they were tired of me talking about my issues, they would tell me. It's like, Jason, talk to your psychiatrist. You know?
But Jason, it's important to know, too, that Jason lives 2 hours away from us. So he's not in the same town that we are.
Oh, we would drive each other crazy or
crazy
if we lived in the same house.
But so he feels free to call us, you know, anytime he has a question or if he's experiencing some symptoms that he has questions or concerns about, he can call us. And usually what I do is I just kind of talk him through that, and I'll say, why do you think you feel that way? Or why do you think...
The cognitive approach, right?
Yes, right. Kind of looking at the evidence of something and trying to determine from the evidence, is this real or not real? Right. And so that has worked very well. Jason's had a lot of therapy and has learned a lot. I think you have.
Well, I get good services from the VA. I'm a veteran, you know, and good doctors. I can say anything to them, and they when I need my medication, they hear me out, and it's good. I get there's a lot of support system there, not just with my parents, but at the VA.
Exactly. That's a good point, Jason, because it's not just your parents who are giving you support. It's the doctors who are on his team. It's other family members who know about Jason's diagnosis and who check in with you, and you feel free to check into with them.
Yeah.
So we have a big team of support, don't we?
An army, right?
An army of helpers. Yes, we have an army of helpers.
So yeah, I think that's really important, is to build the community of support. And I think that's really an important role that like any supportive person in somebody who's living with schizophrenia's life can play, is to help them build up that community and that support
so
network.
Important. You know, and it's a team approach, but it's also a treatment plan that works. And you know, we've been battling this for a pretty long time now. And
2005.
Yes, and so the treatment plan that Jason has right now, the medication that he's on, seeing his doctors and those things, that's come about over a pretty long period of time. Yeah. So it's not this is not a brain disease where there can be an instant cure. Right. It's taken a while to get to this place, and that treatment plan has to be reevaluated occasionally.
You got to be honest with your doctor.
Oh, yeah. Everything
is going on. This is going on. I don't know if it's real or not, but, you know, or with your support team or trust partner, you got to tell them what's going on, whether you think it's symptoms or not, just what's going on. And you got to be mindful. That's a big thing going on now, mindfulness. I call it self-aware. You got to know what's real, what's not. You know, if I'm hearing voices, is that check the evidence, is what I'm trying to say. In my apartment, I have a peephole at my front door. And if I hear voices, I look through the peephole, or I even open my front door and look around to see if there's any voices, and usually there's not. But I do live in an apartment building, so there are all people coming and going all the time. And I realize when it's real people instead of a delusion or voices in my head. So that's important too, to check the evidence.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I find that it's really helpful to have supportive people in your life who you can kind of do that reality checking with, that you really trust and that you can kind of bounce that back and forth with.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Jason and Maye, for your valuable insights in terms of how best to create a supportive team and supportive network around somebody who's living with the illness. You guys mentioned some great things about particularly accepting the illness being a key component to building that and to building that trust. And you guys mentioned trust. What was it?
Trust partner.
Trust partner. That's a great concept. Yeah. Finding your trust partner that you can really lean on when you need to. And then, the team approach. And
your treatment plan has been important.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So thank you so much for your insights into that.
This is new. Patient with your medication.
Being patient with your medication. Yeah. Exactly.
Great. Okay. So thank you so much again for being here with us and for sharing your insights.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you to the viewers for watching. Hope you found this video helpful. If you want to see more videos like it, make sure to subscribe. And thank you so much again for watching and wishing you and your loved ones good health. Bye.